to be here. I'm happy that Reverend Dr. Margaret Pelagi has given me this opportunity to speak today at Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center, knowing that she's having a fabulous vacation. And thanks to our practitioner, Dana Smith. I love the reading and the prayer. It was unbelievably uplifting. Thank you so much. And also, thank you so much to Norman Taylor for the beautiful, inspirational music today. Norm, thanks for sharing your gifts. So I'd like to pose a question to you. Have you ever been around someone that is so joyful that you love being in their presence and you feel uplifted when you're around them? You seek them out. You are happy to be in their presence or get to talk to them. They express themselves in such a confident manner. What is it that they have that you don't have? Nothing. But they have chosen to connect and activate their inner joy. The good news is we all have this. God's nature is joy. And since we are made in the likeness and image of God, our Creator, we also embody this joy. In the Bible verse, John 15:11, these things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. When we let go of our worries and fears and doubts, and embrace that knowing, that absolute knowing of joy, what a sense of freedom that can be. Galatians 5:22 states that the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. The energy that resonates with joy is vibrant and expansive. It's a radiant glow that emanates from within. It energizes our being, it lifts our spirits, and it infuses our actions and our interactions with enthusiasm. When we embody joy, we experience a multitude of favorable effects, such as vitality, resilience, boosted moods and immune system, and a better physical and mental health. Moreover, it influences our relationships, inspiring others and fostering a more joyful and connected world. In essence, joy is a powerful force that can elevate our lives, improve our health, and enhance our true essence. So I ask you, are you ready to embrace your true essence? Are you ready to be a conduit of joy? When you embody and know that your true nature is joy, and that this joy comes from within, from our Creator, you can rest in the knowledge that everything is going to be all right. Just like my favorite song, Three Little Birds. Don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is going to be all right. I love that song. That really inspires me. Jesus says we should live in joyful expectancy. And Ernest Holmes writes, our starting point is joy. And it's for us to recognize God at the center of our being, to have faith in this divine presence within us, to have an equal faith in the divine in everyone else. We must come to see that God is the one eternal presence in everyone and in everything. And we must learn to think from this basis. And that is from Living the Science of Mind, page 157. So the message I get from that reading is to absolutely know and to have faith that God is in each one of us, not out there separate. And for us to base our thoughts and actions from this knowing, it brings me relief and freedom and confidence. It reminds me that I have the most powerful support and wisdom, the most powerful love and joy that has ever existed and will ever exist right there within me. And one of my all-time favorite Ernest Holmes quotes is, "All the power of the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, and then act as though it were true." So the deeper I realize that God is within me, the deeper my joy is. So for me, it's really a two-part realization: faith and joy. And I believe they're connected. It doesn't matter which comes first, the faith or joy. Because faith that God has your back and every part of you brings joy. Or being joyful knowing that God has everything taken care of. Isn't that just so freeing, comforting? Another Holmes quote that resonates with me is, "Every man has inherent God power within him." Now, I was recently in a class that Reverend Dr. Margaret Pelagi taught based on the Jean Houston book, The Wizard of Oz, My Hero's Journey, and many of my classmates are here, right, in front of me, sitting in these wonderful chairs. And in the book, Jean Houston wrote, "We are made of God's stuff, that we are not separate from the Creator." And in New Thought religion, we believe that our Creator is not separate from us, that we are one with all life, and life being a capital L. In Living the Science of Mind, in the section entitled What We Believe, Holmes wrote, "We believe that the kingdom of heaven is within man, and that we experience the kingdom to the degree that we become conscious of it. Heaven is not a place, but an inward state of consciousness. The kingdom to which Jesus refers is not external, but within, an everlasting dominion within and within the mind." End quote. And I recently was asked the question, who do you spend the most time with? And right away I thought, my husband, my daughter, a good friend. But that was not the right answer. It's ourselves, yes, of course. But I didn't even think that was a possible answer, but it makes perfect sense. And when we realize all the time that we spend with ourselves, thinking within our own minds, all those thoughts that we have every day, for me, it's very reassuring to know that heaven is an inward state of consciousness, that we have dominion within our own mind. And when I think about joy, since this talk is called Embracing Joy, when I think about joy, I'm reminded of a book that I have read about a near-death experience. And I know what you're thinking, what a contradiction. Joy and near-death. But trust me on this. Hopefully after you hear about this experience and what the person saw and felt during this life-changing experience, you will understand. The book is called Dying to Be Me, My Journey from Cancer to Near Death to True Healing by Anita Moorjani. Anita is an international author who has published 5 books, an inspirational speaker, Hay House author, a dear friend of Wayne Dyer's. He wrote the foreword in her book before he passed on. Anita writes about a medical condition that caused her to go into a coma for 24 hours, and the near-death experience that she had during that time, how she returned back to her body, and how that experience changed her life and her life's purpose. But first, let me share some about Anita's childhood. She's ethnically Indian, but she was born in Singapore. She said she was immersed in 3 cultures and languages simultaneously because she grew up in Hong Kong and she spoke Cantonese. She was immersed in the Chinese culture there. She went to British schools where the teachings were in English. And then at home, her family spoke their native Sindhi language and practiced the Hindu way of life. Growing up, she experienced the Indian, Chinese, and British cultures, and at times they contradicted each other in their beliefs, their religions, their languages, and she always tried to honor each culture, but it was confusing at times for her. She grew up feeling very different in her looks, foods, traditions, and she always tried to do the right thing and to measure up. Later in life, Anita worked in the corporate world and married her now husband, Danny, who she calls her soulmate. But then in the year 2002, when she was 43 years old, she received the diagnosis of cancer, lymphoma. She started chemotherapy treatments right away, and for 4 years, her health went up and down. And this is how she describes it in her book. After 4 heart-wrenching years with cancer, my body had finally had enough, and I went into a coma. Lymphoma had spread throughout my body and had metastasized. And at that point, all my organs had shut down, and I entered into a coma. While in the coma, in the hospital, she did have the most beautiful experience. She felt herself leaving her physical body. As that was happening, she also felt immense, unconditional love. She saw herself and her loved ones in the hospital. She saw her physical body laying on the hospital bed, and she saw the anguish in her husband's face and her mother's. And she was able to see and hear everything that was happening with the doctors and nurses. She heard the doctor telling her husband in a room 40 feet down from the hospital room she was in, "There is nothing we can do for your wife. Her organs have already shut down. She has tumors the size of lemons from her skull to below her abdomen, and her brain is filled with fluid, as are her lungs. She won't even make it through the night." Anita felt her emotional attachment to her physical body leave her, and she wrote, "I felt a sense of freedom and liberation that I have never experienced in my physical life before. I sensed myself expanding further and further outward as I was no longer restricted by my physical body and the confines of space and time. And I continued to spread myself out to occupy a greater expanse of consciousness. Love and joy and ecstasy poured into me and through me and engulfed me. And to my amazement, I became aware of the presence of my father, who had died 10 years earlier, and it brought me an unbelievable level of comfort to sense him with me. And I also felt the presence of my best friend, Soni, who had passed on a few months before. Anita was able to communicate with her father, but not through words. She was merely thinking of the words. Anita says it was more like I was feeling the emotions behind the words, and there was no other way of communicating in that realm other than through your emotions. Anita communicated to her dad, "Dad, it feels like I've come home. I'm so glad to be here. Life is so painful." "But you're always home, darling," he impressed upon me. "You always were, and you always will be. I want you to remember that." And then he communicated to me, "Sweetheart, I want you to know that it's not your time to come home yet. But it is still your choice if you want to come with me or go back into your body. And Anita thought, why would I want to go back to that body? It's caused nothing but suffering, and I can't see any purpose in going back. Anita writes that she also didn't want to go back because the state of unconditional love was just so blissful. I couldn't bear the thought of returning. I wanted to stay where I was forever and ever. She received the understanding that if she did decide to stay, that her death, the cause of death, would be written as organ failure due to lymphoma. But if she returned back to life, her body would heal rapidly, not in months or weeks, but in days. Anita states, I perceived that I wouldn't have to go out and search for what I was supposed to do if I returned, and I would know my life's purpose. My life's purpose would unfold before me. And it involved helping lots of people, thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Perhaps to share a message with them, I simply had to allow it to unfold. And she continues, I also sense that at our core, our essence is pure love. We are pure love, every single one of us. And she says, how can we not be if we come from the whole, with a capital W, and return to it? I knew that realizing this meant never being afraid of who we are. Therefore, being love is our true self. Being love and being our true self is one and the same thing. I knew that our only true purpose of life is to be ourselves, live our life, and be the love that we are. And then Anita adds, I became aware of both my father and Sony communicating to me, now that you know the truth of who you are, really who you are, go back and live your life fearlessly. So what I just shared with you is a very small part of Anita's near-death experience, in which she shares in detail in her inspirational memoir. And I highly recommend reading more about her experience because it is fascinating, Dying to Be Me. So I would like to focus on the messages that she brought back with her and how this changed her life and how she lives her life now after her near-death experience. Totally different. When Anita did return back to her physical body, and it was discovered that all her tumors were gone within days, and the medical field can still not explain this, she knew her life's purpose was to share what she experienced and what she learned, why she crossed over to the other side, which she calls the multi-dimensional world. She said when she was in the multi-dimensional world, you have more than 5 senses, and it's just beautiful. And she writes, out of the many messages that I brought back from my near-death experience, we are all one, we are love at our core, and we are magnificent. She kept using the word magnificent. That was a word that kept showing up when she was in her experience, that we don't know our magnificence. But the strongest message, and the one that kept reverberating with me, was go back and live your life fearlessly. In addition, because she continues, in addition, because of my near-death experience, I went from an outside-in view of reality to an inside-out view of reality. That is, I used to think that the external world was real and that I had to work within its confines. However, after my near-death experience, I began to see myself as a divine and integral part of the great whole. She continues, this includes everything in the entire universe, everything that has ever existed and ever will, and it's all connected. I realized that I was at the center of the universe and knew that we all express our perspective as we're each at the center of this great cosmic web. She described it as we're each a thread, and it's woven together, and it's a beautiful tapestry. Anita continues, I now understand that true joy and happiness can only be found by loving myself, going inward, following my heart, and doing what brings me joy. I have discovered that when my life seems directionless, and I feel that sometimes, which still happens, I feel lost. But what it really means is that I've lost my sense of self. I am now connected with who I really am and who I've come here to be. And she further states, it's unfortunate that we keep searching outside of ourselves for answers. We think the truth is somewhere out there, still elusive. The entire universe is within us. My answers are within me, she says, and your answers are within you. And when we realize the magnificent universal energy is within us and is us, it changes us as individuals. Now, many people ask Marjani how she lives her life differently after this experience. And she answers, I now live my life from joy instead of fear. Before, everything I did was to avoid pain or to please others. My life was driven by fear of displeasing other people, of failing, of being selfish, or of not being good enough. And in my own head, I always felt short. Now, how many of us can relate to that? That we sell ourselves short, that we don't know our own magnificence. Anita writes, since my near-death experience, I don't feel I came back to accomplish anything. I only came back to be. Now everything I do comes from love. And she doesn't worry anymore about trying to get things right or complying with rules or doctrine. Instead, she follows her heart and knows that she can't go wrong when she does. And ironically, she winds up pleasing more people now than what she did before because she's happier and more liberated. And she says, we're all connected, and I feel what you feel. She felt the message to always be an expression of her own unique essence, which means we have the message to be our own unique essence. And she continues that we all have universal energy. She says, I know I can just as easily call this universal energy chi, prana, ki, because these words mean life force energy in Mandarin, Hindi, and Japanese, respectively. This is the chi in Tai Chi and Qigong, and it's the ki in Reiki. It's the source of life, and it runs through every living thing. It fills the entire universe and is inseparable from it. She says, I find it so beneficial for myself and for everyone else when I expand my life force energy, since we are all one, and I feel what you feel, and I imagine it is the other way as well, that you feel what I feel. So let's focus now on that last part. I feel what you feel. I don't know about you, but I have been in the presence of others and felt their negative, downtrodden, completely frozen in fear energy. And I don't believe this kind of energy benefits anyone, not that person and not anyone else. But I'm not referring to true depression. That's a medical issue. I'm not referring to that kind of energy. That's something different entirely. And I also know there's others in extremely challenging situations, and we can certainly understand how they may feel discouraged, and I'm not referring to them. I'm referring to another's perspective that may have something like, oh, woe is me, or if anything bad's gonna happen, it happens to me. You may have heard them say these words, or I never catch a break, poor me, that kind of thinking. Have you ever met anyone like that? Have you ever been in their presence? For me, it can be draining, mentally and physically depleting, because we can feel it, and it can affect our energy. And I think perhaps their life is based more in fear, or perhaps they don't know that they embody inner joy. They must not realize that. But now, in contrast, think about the beginning of my talk when I asked you, have you ever been around someone that's so joyful that you love being in their presence, and you feel uplifted when you're around them, and you seek them out and you're happy to be in their presence, you're happy to talk to them? And what is it that they have that you don't have? Nothing. But they have chosen, they've made a choice to connect and activate their inner joy. And the good news is we all have it. God's nature is joy, and we are made in the image and likeness of our Creator. And I believe that we, all of us, are here now to contribute, to uplift and expand our life force energy, and to be who we were meant to be, which I believe benefits all of us, ourselves and everyone else. And I like to think about life force energy as a bank account. And I ask myself, what am I doing to add to my bank account? Or what am I doing to deplete it? And as Anita shared what she had learned, that true joy can only be found, and I'm going to tell you these 4 ways again, that Anita found that true joy can only be found in 1, loving ourselves, 2, going inward, 3, following our hearts, and 4, doing what brings us joy. So think about that with our life force energy. So if we criticize ourselves and we label a characteristic in ourselves as bad, don't even like that word, but we do it, that's a decrease in our life force energy bank account. But if we can let go of the self-judgment and we can love ourselves, this is an increase in our life force bank account. If we happen to treat someone in an unkind manner, that is a definite depleting in our bank account, because they feel what we feel. However, when we react with love and kindness, that is added currency to our bank account. So let's keep on building up this life force energy bank account. And we'll know that we're on the right track when we have no judgment of ourselves and others, and we realize our true magnificence within the infinite whole. And I invite you to cultivate the mindset that as I uplift myself, I uplift others. Let's say that together. As I uplift myself, I uplift others. And let's say that again with power. As I uplift myself, I uplift others. And the other message Anita mentioned was to always be an expression of your own unique essence. So we know that we're all one. We know that we're all connected, but we do express that in different creative ways. She says if we simply live in a way that nurtures us and allows us to express our creativity, letting us see our own magnificence, that's the best we can possibly do. End quote. So in allowing ourselves to be who we are meant to be, that cultivates and grows our own life force energy. And this directly impacts others. So as we do more of what we like, it affects others in a positive way. So as I contemplate what brings me joy and nourishes me, this brings forth the true essence of who I am. And here are some questions that have helped me unlock what brings me joy. I ask myself, what enhances my energy? What is it that I like to do? What makes me laugh? Laughter's such good energy. What colors uplift me, and what foods uplift me? So let's do a really short exercise together. And I'm going to ask you to take out the insert in your program. And does anyone need a pen? Raise your hand if you do. The ushers, I think they already gave them out. Yes, thank you very much. So let's do this exercise together. I'll repeat the question. Ask yourself, what enhances my energy? And if you could just write down one or two things, or more, I'm not going to limit. Just write that down. What enhances my energy? What is it that I like to do? What are things you look forward to doing, that it brings a smile on your face when you get to do it? What makes me laugh? What are some things that when you do it, or something you see or hear? I see one person pointing to another person. Yay! What colors uplift me? You know, there's colors that bring joy, bring an uplifted mood. And the last question, what foods uplift me? And hopefully, later on, you can even add more to this list later that adds to your joy factor. So questions similar to these have made it clearer to me what enhances my joy factor. So for me, and you may even have some of these on your list, for me, I have found that walking on the beach, laughing with friends, being in nature, listening to music, being with my granddaughter Lucy, sewing, dancing in the kitchen, enhances who I am and cultivates my true essence. So doing what brings us joy and fulfillment is not frivolous, but it's very necessary. There was a time when I had guilt related to doing things that brought me joy because it might take away from something else in my life, you know, cleaning the house or whatever, but not any longer. Anita states, doing things that make us happy, things that arouse our passion and brings out the best in us, things that make us feel good, also means loving ourselves unconditionally. And when we're flowing in this way and feeling upbeat and energized about life, we're in touch with our magnificence. So in closing, Anita reminds us that true joy can only be found. I want to remind you of these four things: by loving ourselves, by going inward, following our hearts, and doing what brings us joy. She writes, "It's my hope that you find joy in each and every day of your journey and come to love life as much as I do these days." And she continues, "In the tapestry of life, we're all connected. Each one of us is a gift to those around us, helping each other be who we are, weaving a perfect picture together. When I was in the near-death state, it all became so clear to me because I understood that to be me is to be love. That's the lesson that saved my life." So I say to Anita, thank you, Anita, for following your life's purpose, which became so clear to her, and being the embodiment of the truth that we all have, the inner power and wisdom and joy to overcome even life's most adverse situations, and being the living proof of this possibility. So thank you very much.